17 years. I gave them 17 years of my life. I was there when the company was nothing more than a cramped office above a laundromat. I was there through the first real client, the first real lawsuit, the first real paycheck that didn't bounce. I stayed when better offers came. I stayed when the hours doubled and the pay barely moved. I stayed because they said we were family. And when times were good, they celebrated me. Plaques, Christmas bonuses, half-hearted speeches about loyalty and trust. But when the new management took over, when the money started pouring in faster than they could count it, everything changed. The new CEO, Blake, never knew the struggle. He never saw the nights we slept under our desks, the weekends sacrificed, the debts juggled just to keep the lights on. To him, I was just another relic, a stubborn piece of furniture that didn't match the new decor. I felt the shift long before it came. The sudden coldness in meetings, the exclusion from key projects, the way my emails started disappearing into the void without replies. Still, I held on. 17 years builds more than just a resume. It builds hope. Hope that loyalty still mattered. Hope that history meant something. I was wrong. The day they fired me was a Tuesday. Ordinary, forgettable. I showed up at 7:30 a.m. like I always did. Coffee in hand, tie slightly askew from the rush. Blake's assistant, some 20-something kid who couldn't even look me in the eye, handed me a folder. Inside, termination papers. Effective immediately. No warning, no severance. No explanation beyond corporate restructuring. I stood there for a long moment, feeling the floor tilt under me. 17 years erased in a single paragraph. I wasn't even allowed to clear my desk. Security escorted me out like a criminal. No goodbye party, no handshake, no final words from the people I thought I had built a future with. Just the metallic slam of the door locking behind me. For 2 days, I did nothing. I sat in my living room staring at the walls, the silence so heavy it felt like drowning. Rage burned in my chest, raw and unfiltered. But so did something else. Memory. Because while Blake and his shiny new executives had spent the past year erasing the past, I hadn't forgotten. I remembered every shortcut they had taken when the company was young, every corner cut, every deal made under the table to survive. And I knew where the skeletons were buried, because I had helped bury them. They thought firing me would erase the risk. They thought I would disappear quietly. They forgot one simple truth. Loyalty cuts both ways, and betrayal has a longer memory than gratitude. Before I tell you how I turned their perfect world into a collapsing house of cards, if you believe that loyalty should never be thrown away like garbage, hit that subscribe button, because some betrayals deserve a front row seat to their own destruction. Now, let's go back to the night everything started to unravel. The first thing I did was dig through my old backups. Over the years, I had kept copies of everything. Contracts, emails, financial spreadsheets. Not out of spite, just habit. When you watch a company nearly fold 3 different times, you learn to keep insurance. I spent the next 3 nights combing through terabytes of files, drinking cold coffee and making lists. It didn't take long to find it, the deal. 8 years ago, when the company was gasping for air, we landed a contract with a major logistics firm. On paper, it looked clean. A miracle deal that saved us from bankruptcy. But I remembered what really happened. I remembered the under-the-table incentives, the misreported earnings to secure investor confidence, the doctored compliance reports. And I had the receipts, emails Blake had long forgotten, signed contracts filed under fake departments, payment trails hidden in shell accounts. It was all there, perfectly preserved. And in their arrogance, they had never bothered to clean it up. They assumed no one was left alive who cared enough to look. They assumed wrong. Next, I made calls, not to lawyers, to old friends. You don't spend 17 years in an industry without making a few real connections. People who had watched the company's rise with wary eyes, people who had their own reasons to dislike Blake and his golden crew. It wasn't hard to find ears willing to listen. It wasn't hard to find people willing to act. Within a week, I had an entire strategy. Expose the fraudulent deal, trigger an SEC investigation, and watch Blake's empire crumble from the inside out. But I didn't just want revenge. I wanted precision, surgical strikes, no noise, no warning, just a clean, methodical dismantling. First move, leak. I anonymously sent the documentation to a well-known investigative journalist who specialized in corporate fraud. Then I waited. The article dropped on a Thursday. Front page. Massive headline. Detailed breakdowns of shady transactions. Anonymous sources. Me, in disguise, confirming the timeline. Screenshots of emails, copies of contracts. The company tried to spin it, of course. Blake gave a pitiful press conference, talked about miscommunications and legacy issues from before his time. But the internet doesn't forgive that easily, nor does the SEC. Within 48 hours, regulators launched a formal inquiry. Shares plummeted, investors screamed, the board panicked. And Blake finally realized he had a real problem. Meanwhile, I stayed silent. I didn't gloat. I didn't post cryptic messages online. I didn't leak anything further. I let them bleed. Because sometimes silence is louder than any victory speech. Sometimes the best revenge isn't showing them you're winning. It's letting them realize they're losing and knowing there's nothing they can do about it. A week later, Blake was forced to resign to focus on personal matters. Translation: the board needed a sacrificial lamb. Half the executive team was fired within days. The company's value cratered, and the final blow? The logistics firm, the very client that had once saved us, terminated their contract and filed a lawsuit for breach of ethics. It was a massacre, a slow, humiliating public collapse, and I watched it all from the comfort of my living room, beer in hand, peace in my chest. Would you have fought back, or would you have walked away, swallowing the betrayal? If you believe that loyalty should never be repaid with betrayal, and that sometimes the quiet ones hit the hardest, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because this story isn't over yet. Blake's downfall was just the beginning. Now it was time to rebuild my own future, one they would never be able to touch. While Blake and his cronies scrambled to contain the fallout, I was already 3 steps ahead. I knew better than to gloat publicly. I didn't need them to know I had anything to do with their collapse. I needed them to be too busy drowning to look for the one who had cut the hole in their ship. I used the quiet to plan my next move. I wasn't just interested in watching them burn. I was interested in making sure I rose from their ashes, because survival isn't enough, not after betrayal like that. I reached out to a few former colleagues who had left the company years before the rot set in. Some had gone into consulting, some had started small firms of their own, some had simply walked away, disillusioned. All of them remembered the old days, the days when hard work still meant something. I proposed an idea, a new company, built on transparency, loyalty, and actual respect for the people who carried the weight. No fancy slogans, no empty promises, just honest work and a clear mission. Never become what we hated. At first there was hesitation. Starting from scratch was risky, especially after watching what had happened to Whitmore and Reed. But slowly, one by one, they agreed. Not because I promised them easy wins, but because I promised them something rarer, purpose. We pooled what resources we had, not much. A few modest investments, a handful of loyal clients willing to take a risk based on reputation alone. It wasn't glamorous. Our first office was a converted warehouse space with squeaky pipes and flickering lights. Our furniture didn't match. Our coffee maker leaked. Our computers were refurbished relics from a forgotten era. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that every person who walked through our doors knew they were valued, knew that their voice mattered, knew that their work was building something real. Meanwhile, the old company continued to rot. New scandals broke weekly. Former employees came forward with their own stories. Lawsuits piled up like bodies after a battle. Investors pulled out. Clients abandoned ship. The brand name that once commanded respect became a punchline. And through it all, Blake remained silent. No interviews, no statements. Just a ghost, hiding from the ruins he had helped create. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction. Part of me wanted to celebrate his fall. But mostly I felt pity. Not for Blake. For the men and women who had believed in him, who had trusted him, who had paid the price for his arrogance. Because in the end, Blake didn't just destroy a company. He destroyed lives. He destroyed dreams. All because he thought power made him invincible. It doesn't. It never has. It never will. 6 months after we launched, I received an invitation to speak at a major industry conference, a keynote slot, a chance to tell our story. I hesitated at first. Part of me still carried the scars of betrayal, still feared putting my name back into the spotlight. But another part of me, the part that had survived, that had rebuilt, that had refused to stay broken, knew it was time. I accepted. The night before the speech, I barely slept. Old doubts crept in. What if they laughed? What if they still saw me as the man who got thrown out like trash? But when I stepped onto that stage and saw the faces looking back, hundreds of people hungry for something real, the fear faded. I told them the truth about loyalty, about betrayal, about rebuilding. I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't pretend it was easy. I told them about the nights spent wondering if it was all worth it, about the friends lost along the way, about the moments when walking away would have been so much simpler. But most of all, I told them about the choice to fight for something better, the choice to become better, not because it was easy, but because it was right. When I finished, there was a moment of silence, then applause, not polite, not forced, real, the kind that shakes walls, the kind that says, "We see you, we understand." And for the first time in a long time, I realized I wasn't alone. Would you have fought after being thrown away like garbage? Or would you have faded into the background, letting betrayal define your story? If you believe that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones most worth fighting, hit that subscribe button. Because the journey doesn't end when you're knocked down. It begins when you decide to stand back up. Building something from nothing wasn't easy. Every day brought new challenges, tight budgets, tough clients, sleepless nights spent worrying if we would make payroll. There were moments when I questioned if it was worth it, moments when failure lurked just one mistake away. But every time doubt crept in, I remembered why I had started. I remembered the cold slam of the door locking behind me. I remembered the empty promises, the fake smiles, the betrayal, and I knew there was no going back, only forward. Within a year, our little firm began to gain momentum. We didn't advertise with flashy slogans or empty hype. Our reputation spoke for itself. Clients who had once worked with the old company started finding their way to our door. They came quietly at first, cautious, burned too many times before. But once they saw how we operated, how we treated every case, every contract, every decision with respect and integrity, they stayed. Word spread, slowly, steadily, like a rising tide. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving. The irony was almost poetic. The company that threw me out like trash struggled to stay afloat, weighed down by lawsuits and scandal. Meanwhile, the man they thought was disposable was building something stronger, something better, something real. 2 years to the day after I was fired, I received a formal letter in the mail. It was from Blake's legal team, a desperate attempt to settle a civil suit quietly. Apparently, in their scramble to cover their tracks, they had mishandled sensitive client information, exposing themselves to even more liability. The letter offered a settlement, a fat check in exchange for my silence. I laughed when I read it. They still didn't understand. They still thought everything had a price. But some things don't. Some things are bigger than money, like dignity, like self-respect, like knowing that when they tried to destroy you, you didn't just survive. You built a kingdom from their wreckage. I shredded the letter without replying. They weren't worth my time anymore. One evening, after a long day at the office, I stood by the window, looking out over the city. The skyline glittered in the distance. Cars wove like veins through the streets. Somewhere out there, Blake was probably sitting alone, stewing over his losses. Somewhere, the old company was gasping its final breath. But none of that mattered anymore. Because revenge isn't about crushing your enemies. It's about making them irrelevant. It's about building a life so full, so rich, so untouchable, that their betrayal becomes nothing more than a footnote in your story. And mine was just beginning. Sometimes people will tell you that loyalty is dead, that doing the right thing is weakness, that fighting for integrity is foolish in a world that rewards greed and shortcuts. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Then show them what happens when you refuse to be broken. Show them what happens when you turn betrayal into fuel. Show them that real strength isn't about how hard you can hit back. It's about how high you can rise when they expect you to stay down. If you believe that no one else defines your worth, that you write your own story, no matter how hard they try to tear you down, hit that subscribe button. because this isn't just a story about revenge. It's a story about becoming unstoppable. And trust me, the best chapters are still ahead.